It seems as though the Pittsburgh Steelers are already switching Ryan Watts' position to safety. So, Ryan Watts, he was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we all knew his skill set was suited to fill a number of roles, and that the Pittsburgh Steelers viewed him as versatile. And he was mostly a strictly outside cornerback in his college days, but it seems as though the Pittsburgh Steelers have fed him a steady diet of safety snaps so far in all of their camps that they've been in. And it seems as though they're moving him to safety, maybe on a full-time basis. But first, before we get more into it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like the video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, Ryan Watts, in college, played exclusively in an outside cornerback role at Texas. And while he did move up and play in the box at some times, his work at safety and in the slot is consistent with what you would expect from an outside cornerback playing a safety position. It was not great in his little short times that he did play safety, but he was not a full-time safety, so he wasn't getting full reps at that position, as he is now in practice trying to transition to a safety. And yet, it doesn't sound like the Pittsburgh Steelers view him as an outside cornerback, for which there are valid reasons. You kind of think of an outside cornerback and you think of Ryan Watts. He isn't the fastest cornerback in Pittsburgh or in college coming out. And also, when you watch the film, it's not like he has the most fluid hips to switch from inside to outside at the cornerback spot. And also, you can hide that better with an inside safety position or as an inside cornerback. And at 6'3", 212 pounds, he has the size required to switch to a safety position. And that's accordingly what the Pittsburgh Steelers have been doing so far. And they've been doing it a lot in terms of the spring practices and giving him more reps at that position. And also, when you look at defense coordinator Terrell Austin, when he discusses potential plans for Ryan Watts specifically, it sounded as more like they saw his outside cornerback history as a benefit to a new role, rather than his contribution to actually the cornerback position. It seems as though Terrell Austin is talking about Ryan Watts in terms of that could benefit him switching positions. And just to give you a quote by Pittsburgh Steelers safety DeMonte KZ on Ryan Watts, he makes it clear that the Pittsburgh Steelers are transitioning him to safety. So here's his quote directly on that topic. He's been good transitioning to the safety position, asking a lot of questions. End quote. Also, Ryan Watts, he spoke on this matter and he said this. Here's his quote on him playing or just being versatile in general. It was really up in the air, but they just really liked how versatile I was. I like the idea that they can play me at corner or safety or nickel, really. So just being able to have that versatility, I think that's what they love most about me. End quote. So, looking at Ryan Watts, just in general from a perspective, he was drafted in the later rounds of the draft. So when you're drafted that late in the rounds, then you become a player where you're really just doing anything to make a football team. You're doing anything to stick around, doing anything the coaches are asking you to, and you're not going to just be playing one position. You have to be able to do multiple things, be versatile to stick around in the NFL when drafted later in the draft. And that's what kind of Ryan Watts is going through right now. He's in a transformation, or at least he's playing some safety, playing different roles to be able to do multiple things on the football field, in which if the Steelers ask him to play outside cornerback, he has a background history in college of playing outside cornerback. If he's asked to play in the nickel role, sure, he'll play in a nickel role just like he said in his interview. But if he's asked to play the safety position, even though he doesn't have the background, now him getting reps in training camp, getting reps in spring, then he'll be able to have a little bit more knowledge at the position and be able to do multiple things. Getting more reps there can make him an all-around player and make him stick around in this league for many more years than maybe expected. And also, just looking for example, during his rookie season, former second-round pick Sean Davis, if you remember him, the Steelers safety, but he didn't open the year or open his career as a safety position at the safety spot. He opened up as a slot defender, a cornerback, but eventually the Pittsburgh Steelers, they moved his play style, they moved him to the safety role, and he actually played quite well for the Pittsburgh Steelers for many seasons. But then obviously he didn't, and they shipped him and they let him go. So you have to look at Ryan Watts. He was drafted in the later rounds. Sean Davis, he was drafted in the second round. So if they were able to move Sean Davis' position, maybe it'll work out for Ryan Watts if they move him as well. Also, if we're just looking from a team perspective, it kind of makes sense why the Pittsburgh Steelers are moving him, or it looks like they are based off all the interviews, that they're moving him to the safety position. Because when you look at their cornerback kind of depth chart, you look at it and they have Dante Jackson, they obviously have Joey Porter Jr., they have Cameron Sutton, they have Corey Trice Jr., they have Darius Rush, and they have Anthony Everett. So they look at those players, and usually the Pittsburgh Steelers, they usually only carry 5 cornerbacks on the roster, meaning that the top 5 guys, when just looking at the depth chart, would be Dante Jackson, Joey Porter Jr., that's 2, Cameron Sutton, that's 3, Corey Trice, that's 4, and Darius Rush, that's 5. And then you also have guys like Anthony Everett, who may be in the making of making this team, who knows. So that would be 6. If the Steelers keep 5, that's the 5. If the Steelers keep 6, then that's a 6. And where would Ryan Watts fit in that position? It looks like he would be one of the outliers and probably wouldn't make the roster if he was strictly just a cornerback. Even at the safety position, the Steelers have Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, DeMonte KZ, Miles Kilabrew. They usually keep 4 safeties. Those would be the 4 safeties. But the thing is, though, if the Steelers decide to keep an extra defensive back, maybe they wouldn't go towards keeping a cornerback, an extra cornerback in Anthony Everett. Maybe they go to keeping a more versatile guy, someone who could play cornerback and safety if they decide to keep an extra defensive back in Ryan Watts. So him being listed as a safety, he's even listed as a safety on the depth chart. So meaning that you look at him and they probably view him as a defensive back just in general, versatile. And that would help. Because if the Steelers decide to keep a certain amount of defensive backs, in which they do, maybe they decide to keep him as a more versatile player that if injuries happen, can cover both safety and cover cornerback. And also, he probably has a better chance of making the roster as a safety, bumping someone out as that position, than a cornerback spot. So you look at Ryan Watts, and this may benefit him for just making this team in general. Either way, at this point in time, we're still just guessing based off the interviews that Ryan Watts will be switching positions, and we're just talking about this just to talk about it. Because at this point, it's really not like Ryan Watts is going to have a huge impact on this team next season, in which he's going to be a starter, playing huge moments in the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, that's not going to happen. But obviously, just talking about someone switching positions early on in their career as a rookie, this is the point in the offseason where there's really no news, so you talk about multiple things. And Ryan Watts switching positions, I guess, is one of them. And also, you look at this, and you've seen this story happen many times in the past few years with DeMarvin Leal. The question being, hey, the Steelers are stacked right now at the defensive end, defensive tackle position on the defense line. Would DeMarvin Leal be better fit at the outside linebacker spot? Are the Pittsburgh Steelers going to switch him to the outside linebacker, edge rusher, and have him play more in a role to back up TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith? And that was a question going into the last 2 seasons. But then they got Nick Herbig. They obviously had Melvin Gordon or Melvin Ingram at some point, and they also had the guy last season to run off the edge, Gordon. So they have those players, and and they had those players, and he never ended up switching positions. He stayed at the defensive line position. It didn't really work out well for him, but that was a storyline going into the last season and the last few years. So the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't switch his position, but maybe they're switching Ryan Watts based off everything that we've heard so far about him. But anyway, is he going to make a huge impact? Probably not, but it gives him a better chance of making this team, and it also gives us something to look for. Is he going to be safety? Is going to be cornerback. And we'll find that out here when training camp starts at the end of this month and then preseason next month. So with that being said, that's the end of this video. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about Ryan Watts and his teammates and coaches basically saying that he's a safety and that he's transitioning and he's asking questions to get better. And him saying as well that the Steelers view him as a versatile and he could play anywhere. Do you believe he should be cornerback or safety? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. I've covered all this offseason from everything you could think of. I'll continue to cover all going into training camp with highlights, analysis, and then the preseason, regular season, playoffs, Super Bowl, everything. I'm covering all, so like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.